Hey everybody, welcome. In this video tutorial, I'm going to quickly show you how to set up G Suite so you can start sending and receiving email using your own domain name, using Google's email service. So to begin with, what I need you to do is to go to Google's home page. Once you're at Google's home page, focus your attention over here to the top right. You should see a blue sign in button. If you don't, then it means that you're already signed into an existing Google account. And we know that because of the circle over here. I could tell that I'm signed into an existing G Suite account, but in order to set up G Suite, we want to make sure that you're signed out of any existing Google account before you begin. So what I'm going to do in this case is click on the sign out button from here. After I've signed out, you may see a page that resembles this. So what I want you to do again is go to the top of the address bar and simply type in google.com. Again, go back to Google's homepage. Now, take a look over here to the top right. You should see a blue sign in button, and this is a position you want to be in before you set up G Suite. Now that we see this blue sign in button, we want to come over here to the top of the address bar, and at the end of the .com, we simply want to add a /A as in Apple. So the whole web address is google.com/A. Alternatively, you could also go to this web address, which is gsuite.google.com. Either one will take you to the sign up page. Now that we're here, we want to go ahead and click on the blue Get Started button, either from the top right or from here to the bottom left. Google will ask you a variety of different questions, so let's go ahead and get started. In this case, Google gives you a 14-day free trial. But in order to activate this service, you need to provide Google with a credit card. So I'm going to walk you through all the steps of doing this. For right now, let's go ahead and give this a name. We have a domain name that I do not believe we have G Suite set up for it yet, so we'll go ahead and use this Gmail tutorials. We'll just say 2 to 9 people. Down here at the bottom, I'll click Next. After choosing a country, what is your contact info? Current email address. And I'll go ahead and click Next. Now this is an important step. Google is basically asking you, do you already have your own domain name? And you always want to choose yes, obviously, since you have your domain name already registered at registar.com. So I'm going to choose yes, I have one I can use. And at this point, it's going to ask us for that domain name. In this case, I'm going to use this domain name, gmailtutorials.com. Then I'll click Next. Make sure not to include a www, just simply the domain name itself. So don't include an HTTP // just simply the root domain. At this point, I'll click Next. The next page we see is basically just a confirmation page, double checking to make sure that is the correct domain name. At that point, I'm going to go ahead and click Next again. And now it's asking us for a username and a password. So a username is anything that precedes your domain name as part of an email address. So in this case, I want to make it really simple. I want to make sure no one can misspell this email address. So we're going to keep it simple and make the username info. Now let me stop here just for one quick second. What I want you to do is to think of an email account as quite literally being a P.O. box at a post office. So hypothetically, let's assume you had an email address of mark@yahoo.com. If that's the case, then you have a P.O. box called mark@yahoo.com's post office. If you had an email address of mark@gmail.com, then you have a P.O. box called mark@gmail.com's post office. So with G Suite, what Google is really doing is they're giving you your own post office, and you can create as many P.O. boxes, if you will, as you want. Just keep in mind that each email account that you create is a cost of $5 per month that you pay directly to Google. So let's go ahead and continue. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a quick password. And remember, passwords need to be a minimum of 8 characters or digits or punctuation or a combination thereof. At this point, I'll tell Google I'm not a robot by clicking on this checkbox. I'll get past this CAPTCHA and click Verify. At this point, I'll go ahead and click Agree and Continue. So at this point, Google's asking us to review the type of payment plan. Remember, we get this for 14 days free, and currently we're set up to the flexible plan. So we want to downgrade to this right here, which is to the G Suite basic plan. But in order to get there, we need to simply click on Next. this point, we're reviewing checkout. So it's a business type account, $10 per month. So here we need to give it our address. And this is down here where we go ahead and give it some credit card information. So let's go ahead and add a credit card. And what I'm going to do after I do that is I'll go ahead and click next to show you what the next screen should look like. Okay, so I've entered my credit card. I've clicked on next, and now we're taken to this page, basically asking us if we want a special offer. At this point, I'm simply going to click continue to set up. Now we're taken to this screen. It says, how do you want to set this up? So you can call this number and have a Google advisor set up your G Suite account for you. But in this case, since it's just really, really easy to do, I'm going to go ahead and click on set up my own. So I'm going to go ahead and click next over here. And then down here at the very, very bottom, I don't know if you could see this, but it says use manual setup down here at the very, very bottom. So I'll click on that link. We now get this pop-up asking us to make sure that we know what we're doing, and that's what this video is all about. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and click on Go to Admin Console. And there we have it. This is our G Suite Admin Console. So in a sense, we're God. We are omnipotent. We are the postmaster. Only email accounts that have what Google calls super administrative privileges can get access to this G Suite Admin Console. And as you'll see, it's from within this console that we can add new email accounts, we can change passwords, we could do anything. So at this point, we want to continue with this setup. So let's go ahead and click on Start Setup from up here. And now we need to verify the domain name. This is Google's way of verifying that, in fact, you do own your own domain name. So I'll click Verify Domain, and I'll click on Begin Verification. And now it's asking us, how do you want to verify this domain name? So let's go ahead and choose Enum from this list. So I'm going to scroll down and choose Enum. Then it's asking us to create what's known as a text record and add this to our DNS. So what I simply want to do is click on this link right here that they give us. It's going to be an unusual bunch of characters, just a string of letters and numbers. So we'll go ahead and copy this to our clipboard. I'll right mouse click and copy that to our clipboard, or you can press Command or Control C depending on the type of computer you're on. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go and open up a new tab and go to Registrar's client area. In other words, log into the client area from registrar.com. Once you're signed in, you should see something like this. So what I'm going to do here from this menu is I'm going to click on Domains, then My Domains from the drop-down. What this does is it shows us a list of all the domain names in our account. In this case, we only have this one domain name called Gmail Tutorials. The next thing I'll do is over here to the right, I'm going to click on this icon of this wrench. Now on this page, where we get to manage all the settings for this domain name, gmailtutorials.com, I want to focus my attention over here to the left. And I want to make sure that you're using our name servers. For those of you who do not understand what a name server or a DNS server is, which is basically the same thing, a DNS or name server is nothing more than the traffic cop that dictates what should happen if someone goes to your domain name, or if somebody wants to send you an email. We'll talk about that in another video tutorial, but for right now, what I want to do is come over here to the left and click on Name Servers. And you should be using our default name servers, and it should look something like this. If you are using our name servers, and there's 5 of them listed here, then the next thing I need you to do is over here to the left, I want you to click on DNS Management. This, in a sense, is the traffic cop. This is the traffic cop, and it's going to dictate what's going to happen if somebody goes to our domain name. Right now, we have 3 host names over here, and again, we'll discuss this in another video tutorial, but for right now, what I want to do is go down to the bottom to an empty row, and I want to simply type in an @ symbol. Then the record type is going to be an SPF TXT record, and I simply want to paste in that text record that Google gave us from this page here. So we basically want to copy and paste this code into the address field for this @ symbol as a record type as SPF text. At this point, I'll go ahead and click Save Changes. Now, one of the really nice things about registrar.com is that we propagate instantly. So even though nothing on this planet is perfect, I want to go ahead and just give it a moment or two before we proceed to the next step. So I'll go back over here to this tab where we're being asked by Google to verify that in fact that we do own the domain name. And I want to hold off for about a minute or two before I click on this red verify button down here to the bottom left. And while we're waiting, I just want to, again, make sure that you understand what we're doing here. So the only way that we could create a text record like we did here in this control panel is if we are the owner of that domain name. Otherwise, how else would we have had access to this domain name control panel? So again, this is just Google's way of verifying that in fact we do own this domain name, that we're able to make these types of changes. So enough time's passed, so let's go ahead and click on the verify button. Again, I strongly advise you wait at least 2 minutes, but let's go ahead and click on the verify button. If you followed my instructions and you waited at least 2 minutes, then you should see a page that looks like this, where Google has confirmed that in fact we do own that domain name by navigating to that @ symbol through our domain name and just making sure that it does resolve to that text record. And they could see that, and that's why they're saying over here, congratulations, you've successfully verified the domain ownership of gmailtutorials.com or whatever your domain name is. If for whatever reason you get any other message that basically says we could not verify you, then go ahead and wait another 5 minutes or so before you try it again. In this case, since we were already verified that we do own this domain name, I'm going to go ahead and click on this continue link here. The only other thing we need to do is point your domain name to Google's email servers. Now, at the very bottom of this page where you're watching this video tutorial, there are different what we call MX records. So another way to do this is just simply open up a ticket and basically instruct us to point your domain name to Google's email servers. If you want to do it yourself, it's pretty straightforward. Just open up a tab, go to Google, do a search for G Suite MX Records. And the first link you see over here is G Suite MX Record Values. That's what you're looking for. So make sure to click on this first link. And also, by the way, take a look in green. You always want to make sure that you're at a reputable website. In this case, we know we're at support.google.com. I'll go ahead and click on this link. And here we have all the different MX records that we need to point the domain name to. So what I'm going to do is grab the first value, including the dot at the end. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. I'm going to go back to our registrar control panel, to your client login area. We're on DNS management. This is where we pasted in the text record they had us use to verify the domain name. In this case, I'm going to come over here, type in an @ symbol in the next empty row. I'm going to change this to an MX mail record. And I'm going to simply paste in the address for that Google Mail server. Over here under priority, I want to follow what they're telling us. In this case, the priority is 1. We start at 10. The lower the number, the higher the priority. So I'm going to change that to a 10. Then I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes. Once I've done that, I'm going to scroll down and do the same thing. I'll add an @ symbol. The record type is going to be an MX mail record. Come over here, grab the next value, the next address, which is this one. Copy this to my clipboard, and you'll notice that the priority over here is a 5. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. After I paste it in, I'm going to change this to anything higher than a 10, so we'll just make it a 15. Again, the lower the priority, the lower the number, the higher the priority. And all that means is basically if this mail server fails, then there's a secondary and another one and another one, another one as a backup. So I'll click Save Changes to this. Sorry if this is just going slow for you guys. I just want to make sure you guys understand how to do this and do this right. So again, I'm going to put an @ symbol in the hostname column. I'm going to choose MX Mail, and I'm going to go grab the other one, which by the way, if you notice this over here, it says Alt 1 Alt-2, so they're all the same here at this point. So I'm simply going to go ahead and paste what I already have in my clipboard. And I'm going to change this Alt-1 to the number 2. Come over here and make this one 15 as well. Save. Scroll down, @ Txt Record. Paste in the next address, which is Alt-3. This time, we need to make this a higher priority, since over here we're told that the priority is 1, 5, 5, 10, 10. So we're going to go ahead and make this value 20. Anything higher than 15, in other words. Come over here, put in an @ again, Txt Record. Change this to Alt-4. And make this 20 as well. And click Save Changes. That's it. That's how we did it. So all we did here was basically told this traffic cop, again, this is what a name server or DNS server does, is it dictates what should happen if somebody wants to see your website or if somebody wants to send you an email. So at this point, we basically pointed this domain name to Google's email servers. For those of you wondering, by the way, how to set up an additional email account, what you want to do is click on this icon here titled Users. And what this is going to do is it's going to show you all the different P.O. boxes, if you will, all your different email accounts. So here we have the email account that we created called info@gmailtutorials.com. If we want to add another user, another P.O. box, I simply come over here to this yellow circle and click on Add New User. At this point, we're going to be prompted for a name. Create an account for Paul. And again, we're being asked, what do you want Paul's email account to be? So it's really important to go slow here. Remember, you have your own post office. You can create any email account you want. So rather than typing in, Paul.Stark or Paul.Smith or Paul.whatever, make it simple for Paul and just simply make it just Paul. At this point, we're going to choose a secondary email address. Put in a phone number if we'd like. At this point, we want to scroll down here, and this is quite important. Down here at the bottom, Google introduced this new thing where it's automatically generating a password. We want to make sure to shut that off. So we want to choose our own password for Paul. So I'll deselect that by sliding it over to the left, and I'll give Paul's email account a password. And then look at this option down here. It says ask for a password change at the next sign in. I want to make sure to slide that over to the left as well. Otherwise, when we try logging in as Paul, it's going to ask us to change the password again. So since Paul is an employee of ours, I want to make sure that I give Paul his password for his email account and ask him not to change it. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and click on Add New User from the bottom right of this little window. And there we have it. We just created another P.O. box for Paul. At this point, I'll click on Done. And now we have 2 P.O. boxes at our post office. So one thing I want to point out to you while we're in here is about giving someone what Google calls super administrative privileges. And this is really, really important. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I open up a new tab now, and I want to make sure to look over here to the top right, this circle with the letter in it indicates that I'm logged into an existing Google account. At this point, I could see that it's info@gmailtutorials.com. So I can log into the G Suite inbox one of 2 different ways. I can click on the link here titled Mail, or I can click on this icon of these 9 dots and click on Mail from here. At this point, what I want to show you is this. So we're looking at the inbox for the info P.O. box, if you will. If I go over here and click on this icon of this gear, you'll notice that one of the links is titled Manage This Domain. Now that's really, really important to understand that the only reason we have that link titled Manage This Domain is because this email account, the one that we started off with, has what Google calls super administrative privileges, allowing us to get to the G Suite admin console. So in other words, if I click on Manage This Domain, it's going to open up a new tab and put us inside the G Suite console. We already have another tab right here that's signed in, but let's go ahead and close that out just so I can prove that to you. So right now we're logging in as God. We're omnipotent, Again, we are the postmaster. This is where we can create email accounts, change passwords, delete email accounts, etc. Now, what I want to do here is I want to sign out of info, and I want to sign into that Paul account that we just created just a few moments ago. So I'm going to come over here to the top right, and I want to sign out of this info account. I'm going to go back to Google again, and this also answers the question, how do I sign into my G Suite email account? You simply navigate to Google's homepage, click on Sign In. At this point, we're going to choose another account, and I'll type in the new account that we created. If I can spell. The next thing it's going to be prompting me for is the password that I chose. Then I'll click Next. And you'll notice that the first screen I get to is this screen asking me to basically go over their TOS, terms of service, and basically to accept these. So I'm going to go ahead and click Accept. And again, take a look to the top right here. We do have a different icon. If we click on it, we can see that we're signed into the Paul Smith account, the Paul P.O. Box that we just created. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Mail to be staring at the inbox for this Paul account. And the next thing I want to show you, now that we're staring at the inbox for Paul's account, is I want to do the same thing we did with the info account. I want to click on this icon of this gear. But you'll notice that we don't have a link called Manage This Domain. In other words, the info P.O. Box that we originally created, the first G Suite account that you create with Google, that first P.O. Box has what Google calls super administrative privileges, which gives us access to the keys to the kingdom, to that G Suite admin console. So any other email account that you create does not have super administrative privileges. So let's assume hypothetically that Paul is one of my IT managers and I trust him implicitly. And I want to give him access to the G Suite console as well, but using his P.O. Box instead of info. So let's go ahead and sign out of this account, out of Paul. And instead, we're going to sign into this info account down here. So I don't necessarily need to sign out. I can simply switch accounts by clicking on this last one that we have on our list. At this point, I'm prompted for my password again for this info P.O. Box. I'll get the same message. I'll click Accept. And now we're signed back into the info P.O. Box. How do I know that? If I click over here to the top right, I can see that the first account is the one that we're signed into. Now, if we go ahead and click on this icon of this gear, we have this link titled Manage This Domain. So if I click on that link, I'm waiting for the G Suite Admin console to appear. What I'm going to do is click over here on Users, and then I'm going to click on Paul's P.O. Box. Now, this is where I could change or reset a password for this particular email account, the Paul email account over here to the left. I can rename the user. So let's assume Paul doesn't want his email address to be paul@gmailtutorials.com, but rather Paul Smith. Then I can simply go ahead and change the email address here to Paul Smith. Again, if I could spell. If I clicked rename, it would rename that account. So it's basically like stepping behind the P.O. boxes and just changing the name to the P.O. box. So one of the things that I also wanted to show you, and let's just stay on topic here, is again, we're signed into the Paul P.O. box. Excuse me, we're not signed into the Paul P.O. box, but rather to the settings for the Paul P.O. box. I want to scroll down to this section here titled Admin Roles and Privileges. If I click on Assign Roles, I could go ahead and flip this switch right here to make Paul a super administrator, so that the next time Paul signs into his Google G Suite account, he will have a link. After clicking on the gear, he will have this link titled Manage This Domain, allowing him to get access to this G Suite admin console. So I don't love Paul that much, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it off and just leave it as is. In this case, I'll click cancel here. I just wanted to show you how you can give another email account, another P.O. box, if you will, super administrative privileges. So remember, guys, there's an old saying, Love many, trust few, always paddle your own canoe. No one is ever going to care more about your business online or offline than you. So it's really important that you decide who you give super administrative privileges to. Before we leave this screen, what I want to do here is come over here to this hamburger patty icon over here to the top left. And I'm going to go back to, I want to click back on home. And from here, I want to go ahead and click on users one more time. The next thing I want to do is show you a neat little trick that Google offers, and it answers a lot of common questions that people have. So remember, just like a P.O. box that requires a key for you to open it, every email account obviously requires a password. So what I'm going to do here for the info account is I'm going to click on this link here. That'll take me to the property settings for the info P.O. box. Then over here under this block titled user information, I want to click on this. Then I want to come down here to this section called email aliases. This is an awesome feature. So I'm going to go ahead and click on add an alias, and I'm going to type in the name John. So what I'm going to do next is go ahead and click on the save link over here to the right. Now what I just did was I stepped behind the P.O. boxes where the postman puts mail into everybody's different P.O. box, and I added a sticky note next to the next to the info P.O. box that said, hey, if anybody ever emails john@gmailtutorials.com, put that email inside the info P.O. box. So John is not an actual email account. So in other words, if I try to go into Google and try signing in with john@gmailtutorials.com and a password, it's not going to work because it's not an actual P.O. box. It's not an actual email account. Instead, it's what Google calls an email alias. And you can go nuts here. So if I go ahead and click on this pencil, one of the things I'm going to do is add another alias over here, and I'm going to type in John intentionally misspelled. So if anybody emails jon@gmailtutorials.com, I'll still be able to intercept those emails. Let's assume that I'm taking out an ad in the Los Angeles Times, and the ad reads something like, hey, if you're looking for the best information on how to use Gmail, visit our website at gmailtutorials.com or email us at latimes@gmailtutorials.com. So if I include that latimes@gmailtutorials.com as part of that classified ad, what I could do is come over here and add that alias here. Then click save. Now the beauty of this is that 3 months down the road, after that ad has finished running, I could go back to that email account, come over here to the top and search for latimes@gmailtutorials.com and see how many people actually emailed that email address. That will give me a gauge, if you will, of how effective that classified ad was for me. So again, I'm trying to get you to think in different ways here. So one other thing I want to mention is you notice that we created an alias called John. And by the way, you can add as many aliases as you need. These are not billed separately. In other words, you're only paying for the actual P.O. box itself. So if I try to create a separate email account called JON, it's not going to work. So if I go back over here to users and I click on this icon over here to add another user, if I type in John Smith and I made the email address JON and filled out the rest of this information, Google is going to throw it back at me and say, oh, sorry, you can't do that because JON is already an alias of another email account. So remember, if you get that error message, think and ask yourself, I just canceled that out. Think, is that username already set up as an alias? So let's assume that I did want to set up an email account, a totally separate email account for JON. Then what I would have to do is come back over here to this info account, click on this block called user information, go down to email aliases right here, click on the pencil, and then simply click on the X over here to the right for John, removing him from the list, then clicking save. So the other thing I want to show you before we leave this tutorial is I want to go back over here to this hamburger patty icon and click on home. And I want to make sure that you guys select the right account that's best for you. So when we come over here, again, Google gives you a 14-day free trial. And what we want to do is make sure that we go over here down to billing. And here we see the type of plan that we have. So the cost is $10 per month per user. So at this point, we want to go ahead and click on Actions, and we want to downgrade to G Suite Basic. So if we do that, we can see the different plans and the different amount of storage space that we get. So a basic plan gives us 30 gigabytes of disk space per user, whereas a $10 a month plan, the business plan, has unlimited storage. So there's a lot of benefits to using the G Suite business plan, but it really depends on you. So just remember, every separate email account that you create, every separate PO box is a fee that you're going to have to be paying to Google. Aliases are not included as that fee. So any aliases you add are simply that. They're not a separate PO box. So once I choose to downgrade, I can click on this link here titled Downgrade to G Suite Basic. And after 14 days, Google is now going to be billing me $5 a month instead of $10. And again, the same thing is true if you want to go the other way. So if you decide a month from now you do really want that extra disk space, you can always upgrade your account to a G Suite business account. So that's it. That's how easy it was to set up G Suite using your own domain name. If you have any questions, obviously just log into your client area from our website, click on Open Ticket, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. Good luck, and again, thanks for watching this video tutorial. And again, reach out to us if you have any questions or need help. Thanks for watching.